Very good morning, students. A very warm welcome to your second year of general nursing. The main subjects that you will be studying in your second year will be Medical Surgical Nursing 1, Medical Surgical Nursing 2, Pediatric, and Mental Health Nursing. Today, we'll start off with the syllabus for your second year, and we'll start off with Medical Surgical Nursing 1, which would be Introduction and Evolution of Medical Surgical Nursing, which means how medical surgical nursing has evolved or transformed during the times, right from the old Stone Age, or which is called as the primitive era, until what it is today. So you'll see a varied change in the way nursing is being practiced from those olden times until what it is being practiced today. So, what we can tell about medical surgical nursing, it is a specialty which is concerned with the care of the adult patients and which is in a broad range of settings. There are various options in medical surgical nursing, and how medical surgical nursing has given nurses a lot of opportunities to practice both in hospital settings, in community settings, as well as in a psychiatric settings, neuro settings, anywhere. So, you are really dealing with a patient as a whole, right from head to toe, what all diseases occurs or illnesses occur. A medical surgical nurse will be aware and having the knowledge in order to treat a patient with such conditions. Medical surgical nursing is also, as I mentioned, being practiced in hospitals, in outpatient settings. It is also being practiced as home care. And even today, with the advanced technology, medical surgical nursing has also been practiced as telehealth or telemedicine, which means the patients are at a distance or patients are at their homes, but care is being offered by the professionals, which is a doctor or a nurse sitting in a hospital, and the doctor is able to assess the patient and provide the required care, also by doing the proper assessment and prioritizing the patient's problems, and every other steps of the nursing process still follows even though we are doing a distant care providing to the patient. Also, nursing, when you see how the nurses are being practicing in a medical surgical nursing settings, you have varied departments to work in. So even the job opportunities are huge, and the way a medical surgical nurse can choose the area of interest is also really vast. So in a hospital setting, you will see there is inpatient clinics, there is OPDs, and also like an injection room, there is emergency departments, even in administration, even that also falls under this category. Outpatient surgical centers, you have your medical wards, surgical wards, you have your surgical ICUs, medical ICUs, you have your specialized theater settings as well as specialized areas, like for example if it's cardiology, you have your cath lab, which is a specialized area or a sterile area which requires actually training to be a cath lab nurse as well. And it's interesting to know that medical surgical nurses are also performing at the military levels, which is very interesting because you are actually taking care of the sick and injured in the battlefield. So during the wars, this is what happened during the olden times, where Florence Nightingale and our real, nursing leader, whom we can call her, has done a lot of work during the Crimean War. And medical surgical nursing, as we all know, it is being practiced at all levels and all over the world. You will see that nurses are having a lot of opportunities to work and practice and also choose their specializations, whether be it just an OPD or you want to get yourself specialized and recognized in a specific area. And again, medical surgical nursing, it's with the advanced technology, as I mentioned, the nurses, however, enhance their organizational prioritization, assessment, as well as communication skills, which are really important. And as we all have learned this during your first year, the basic nursing skills, which is like creative thinking, decision making, documentation, and also how you communicate with the patients, your team, your healthcare members, everything is really important. And over the years, with your experience, you will start developing all these skills at a really great level. This I don't have to explain to you because definition of nursing was studied by all in the first year, and again according to WHO as well as Virginia Henderson, and I'm sure it is thorough in everybody's mind, the definition of nursing. Now going back to, as I mentioned, about the evolution of medical surgical nursing, it has started during the primitive times, as you all know, you must have learned this in your schools, that primitive era is also called as old Stone Age, where people really didn't know what the best ways of practice, but they just took life as it came and they made the best of out of everything. So they still survived. There was health, there was illness, but however, the people managed to live their years, and they were not actually settled in one place. They were called as nomads, which means people are actually traveling from one place to another. And as I mentioned, the people of that particular community have a leader who's considered to be the doctor, and he would be responsible in taking care of that particular community members. It was also believed that illness happened because of some kind of spirits, or the presence of some kind of supernatural powers. It could be some kind of beliefs. It could be some kind of black magic, or some kind of beliefs among the religion, and especially that particular cultural beliefs as well. And they believed that illness was because of all that. And for that, what happened? They didn't have any professional doctors, but they had this traditional healers who could really take care of that particular illness. And they believe that, again, the disease came because of the gods were angry, some supernatural power, the dead person was unhappy with that particular person, or because they have created some kind of, committed some kind of sin or some kind of a wrongdoing. And that was the reason why sickness actually occurred. Even during those times, nursing actually prevailed, but nursing was not known as any professional aspect, but nursing still prevailed. And anybody who was able to provide care and compassion to the others was called as a person who could take care of the sick and the well being. And also during those times, herbalism was practiced, which means herbalism is nothing but to deal with herbs. Herbs are nothing but the medicinal plants. So people during those times, even though they didn't have any kind of scientific knowledge regarding the medicines or anything of that sort, but they knew that there are some kind of plants which grew around them which had some medicinal properties, and that really was helpful in order to treat pain as well as some kind of inflammation. Okay. And during those times, you would also see that there were people called as shamans or apothecaries. Apothecaries means the people who prepared the drugs, or the people who prepared the medicines for these sick people. Even during those primitive ages, dentistry, which means like any problems with your tooth or anything with your mouth cavity, even that also was taken care of, and people were using drills and also the bowstrings. Okay, now the bowstrings, now in the recent times, we use the dental floss in order to clean the teeth between, but now maybe they use this bowstrings as well as dental trips for any kind of tooth problems as well. There was also surgery was also being performed at the time, which is very interesting to know. And one of the operation that was performed during those times was called as trepanning, and that you can see in the following slides what it is, and I'll explain to you. Also, amputation is nothing but in any kind of your limbs some problem is there, then what you do, you would break off, or you would get rid of that particular portion of your body. Even that kind of procedures were also being practiced. Now, how they treated the disease during those times were using plant materials, and some of the main important herbs would be rosemary, lavender, parsley, mint, thyme, oregano, sage. So this picture here actually shows you about all the different kind of herbs that were used as medicinal plants. They also used clay, or it's called as the earthen clay, and they believed that applying that on broken bones would take care of the particular fracture. So even applying clay or even eating clay also took care of all the problems of your stomach as well. Now, surgery, as I mentioned to you, trepanning is nothing but creating a burr hole on the patient's skull. So in this picture, you see that this is a doctor and he's performing that particular operation because people believed that illness or sickness was because the person had excess blood in his body. So they wanted to drain that blood from the body, and they feel that the disease can be cured. And such procedures was also being performed when a patient or person complained of headaches as well as epilepsy. Again, as I mentioned to you, they believe that magic was one of the most important ways of treating, and they believe that calling the shamans, or the person who performed that particular prayers for that person, or again, he was not any doctor kind of a person or who had any kind of professional experience, but he had some kind of chanting or his kind of beliefs and some kind of prayers that he performed, and made sure that he was able to ward off the evil spirits. And this picture actually shows you that when you have somebody like being possessed or behaving in a very abnormal manner, they would take that person to this particular person who's actually performing this kind of prayers, and the disease can be cured. Also they used terracotta, which is used, terracotta is nothing but clay, and this is like very hard, which is actually being treated on fire, and what they used this terracotta was in the form of tablets, so that also took care of many kind of illnesses. This is again a picture of a person called as the exorcist priest. Now exorcist or exorcism is nothing but when you're trying to remove the evil, the or the when a person is possessed, so you're trying to remove that evil or the negative energy from that patient or from the person, and this was performed by this particular person who's known as a sipu at that time, and that priest. So he again would do his prayers and chanting, and he would make sure that kind of negative energy was removed from that particular person. And again, all the remedies like folk remedies are nothing but the use of herbs, animal products, any kind of minerals like beet, clay, and some kind of ointments. And they also used poultice. Poultice is nothing but this picture, what you see here. Again, this is nothing but a herb which is made they are crushing it. They crush the herb and they make it as a small moist mass, and they apply it wherever you have pain or inflammation, and that took care of the pain and inflammation. In the ancient Egyptian medicine, again, you would see that Herodotus is the main person, or he is called as the ancient Greek historian. And Herodotus believed that the Egyptians were the healthiest of all people. Again, most of the belief was dealt again with the supernatural powers and that kind of beliefs. But again, during this time, people were focusing more on anatomy, public health, and trying to make a decision about diagnosing a disease so that they were able to provide the better care. Now, medicine in China was again on a different aspect, because what they did was they again treated illnesses in a very intelligent way. But what they did was they used to use the dried plant and animals products or parts, and they also used like mushrooms. They used this kind of dried curled snakes for some reason, and they used the turtle shell. All these were kind of their medicinal products of treating the illness. Again, we're coming to Greek medicine, and Greek medicine, the most important names that would come to your mind was nothing but the Asclepios. And this is again the picture showing about how the people treated. So they had the knowledge. Now, in this picture, it shows that this person had an injury. Okay, he had the arrow which was pierced into his arm. So he had to remove that and do some kind of dressing. But it is interesting to know that the person who was providing the care had an idea about this particular injury, and he removed the bow. What he did was he washed that area with warm water and he applied some kind of soothing ointment. Maybe the ointment could be the herbs or anything of what they prepared of their own experience. But what happens, you see, is people did have the knowledge about how to treat illnesses even during those times. Again, Hippocrates is known as the father of modern medicine. He is a Greek physician, and during his time, again, care was provided, and they were more focusing on prognosis and not diagnosis. So prognosis is nothing but how you're providing care to the patient, and you're assessing or following the patient to check how effective the care is. And also during his times, great developments were seen in clinical practice. And during his time, temples were considered as schools where they provided education regarding some medical advice, prognosis, and also healing. And Asclepius is known as the god of healing. And this picture you would have been very clear, because you know that this is the medical symbol which has got a staff and which has got a snake which is curled around it. So it is believed when this symbol symbolizes that it is the god of healing. Roman medicine is very interesting to know, because Romans were very clever at the time. They knew about all what is happening, so they incorporated all that kind of treatment aspect. But they were into inventing surgical instruments like forceps, scalpels, and even cautery machines, surgical blades, and speculas. Also, it is interesting that the Romans performed cataract surgery. It is a kind of eye surgery which you will be learning in detail. Now, the instruments that the Romans kind of invented were these. So they kind of invented their own kind of forceps, some kind of surgical scissors. These are again called some kind of forceps again, and these are all the speculums for the vaginal examination. And these are the scalpels. So scalpels these days, you can see it is very, very tiny. Maybe the blade can be about maybe 1.5 inches maybe, but you see the difference about how the scalpels used to be those days. But it's interesting that people did make use of what was available, and they did treat the illness as well as disease. Again, now medicine during the Middle Ages was very interesting. All this was practiced, but people still believe that with their kind of intelligence and with their kind of thinking, they started assessing or looking at the the samples or the fluids from the patient's body and trying to assess the kind of illness. So they were the four humors, which was considered as the bile, the phlegm, black bile, as well as the blood. So they knew that assessing or doing some kind of investigations on these samples will help them know what kind of disease the person has got. Also, they focused on the four elements, okay, and they feel that this is what controlled the health as well as the illness of the patient, and that was associated with the fire, water, earth, and air. Again, what Hippocrates was saying is that he believes that most of the illnesses again related to your diet. So what Hippocrates says that let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So it was either way. So it was just meant that if you eat right, you're going to be healthy, and if you don't, then this is going to be resulting in illness. So this is what they believe. So diet also played an important role, and if you're able to eat healthy, that is going to be able to treat most of your illness. This is another picture which is showing you the different kind of procedures that was practiced by the people, like how they're doing this kind of surgical procedure, looking at a sample of urine, again preparing the herbs or medicines, and this is another picture where the doctor is actually administering medicines to the patient. This is an instrument, or this is kind of the blades that they used during those times in order to perform the surgical procedures. During the 18th century, again, it was very the ways of treating was slightly advancing, and healing for the sick or caring for the sick was kind of getting to be a different stage. So John Brown was believed that there are two types of people: the sthenic and asthenic. Sthenic means strong, asthenic means weak. So again, it was not at all complicated. So the sthenic, again, if it's a strong, you need something to calm them down. So it would be something like alcohol, and the opium was again used. And if it's a weak person, you would give something like a stimulant. When a person is weak, we want to pump them up. So you give like a stimulant so that it works on their body and it makes it more happening for them, and they're able to perform their activities and become physically fit. So that is what they believe. There are only two kinds of people, which is a strong person as well as a weak person, and according to them, they started treating the disease. Again, during those times, homeopathy came into the picture. There was also advances in surgery, obstetrics. Again, pathology was also given very importance, and it is believed, it was also interesting to know that Rene Laennec, this is a person, he is a native of Brittany. Brittany is a place, and he is the one who invented the simple stethoscope. And you will be really surprised to see what the stethoscope looks like. And stethoscope during those times was also called as the cylinder. And this is how the stethoscope looks, and this was invented by Rene Laennec, and this is how they would assess a patient. Okay, look at the way they did that, and it was invented by Rene Laennec. Again, during those times, many vaccinations were introduced because they wanted to eradicate some of the very dangerous or diseases like smallpox, and this was found by Edward Jenner in 1796. And vaccinations, again, main responsibility was they did not want the disease to. So many experiments were conducted, and they realized, yes, this particular vaccination is working, and they were trying to eradicate the disease. During those times, again, a lot of public health, hygiene, hospitals, Red Cross associations, and a lot of scientific thinking also was given importance, and a lot of advances were seen in the field of physics, chemistry, as well as biological sciences. In the 19th century, again, it was more advancing, because it was interesting to know that many instruments came into picture, like the microscope, ophthalmoscope, and they were trying to do various investigations. Like, as I mentioned, they knew that it was because of some kind of minute living organisms that disease was present, or disease was being caused. And since surgery was already happening during those times, they knew that there is some kind of infection in the wounds, and which is what caused the person to kind of deteriorate. So what they did, pathology was given great importance. They started finding instruments as well as methods of how to find out what kind of organisms cause this particular illness, be it bacteria or a virus. During the time, even the French chemist Louis Pasteur did a great amount of work in the science of bacteriology, and he found what is known as the fermentation and pasteurization. Again, the antiseptic was also being introduced at that time. This was invented by Joseph Lister. And Robert Koch was another important person during those times who showed that the bacteria was present, and he showed that the organisms that caused tuberculosis in 1882 and what caused cholera in 1883. So Robert Koch was one who showed us that bacteria could be cultivated, isolated, and examined in the laboratory. So this was a great work which was done during those times by Robert Koch. There was great discoveries in anesthesia as well. So as I mentioned, though surgery was performed, the people were very interested in finding out means and methods of making the patient comfortable. So anesthesia also was being found, and during the time in 1847, chloroform was tried. And before chloroform, what they used was ether. So they felt that that was acting as a great anesthesia. And later on, chloroform was found by James Simpson in 1847. There was great advances again during the century, and again even during this time, malaria was found that they were just causing problems. Again, Ronald Rose was the one who worked on that, and he found that this was caused by the malarial parasite, which is called as the Anopheles mosquito. Preventive medicine again was gaining much importance. A discovery of x-rays, radium, and also psychiatry also was showing great advances. And this picture here will show you what hospitals looked like in the past. This is a picture of a hospital. This is like how the person is treating a person. Like, this is an eye problem, so he is looking at the person's eye and treating him. And very interesting to know, this is a setup of a operating theater. These days, very well, you know what an operating theater looks like, but this is what it looked like in the ancient times. Now, the 20th century is very interesting to know. So much of advances has happened. Now, during the 20th century, a lot of importance was given to endocrinology, which is the meaning nothing but study of the endocrine glands, the nutrition, as well as other areas. And a lot of importance and advances was seen in assessing or studying about the blood group system. And blood transfusion also was taking place at the time. Lot of mobile hospitals was set up because they wanted to control infections. And even during the 20th century, reconstructive surgery or cosmetic surgery was also being practiced. Again, the World Health Organization played a very important role, like in setting up immunization schedule. Also, they launched the anti-malarial program, which is those were the diseases that was being prevailing during those times, and they were finding out protocols how to contain the particular disease. Even the smallpox vaccination in Niger was also being invented, and the whole idea was to eradicate that particular disease. So a lot of advances you can see during the time. Even the pandemics that happened during 2003, the SARS pandemic, the influenza A virus, the Ebola virus, I'm sure you would have heard about all these names. So all this, though it prevailed, we had kind of protocols and strategies or methods that were practiced in order to contain the particular disease. Even importance was given for the cancer treatment, where radiotherapy, chemotherapy, also the x-rays, imaging, MRI, CT scan, all this, even the stem cell therapy, everything was starting to gain shape, and they started to find out advanced or even in-depth study about how to study about a particular illness and provide the appropriate treatment. So basically, what we found out, what we were seeing was that they were coming more closely into evidence-based medicine, which means whatever you know, whatever you're trying to find or investigate, and when you try to prove something, there is kind of evidence or nothing but the rationale was mentioned, so you know that what you're treating is going to be appropriate. Later, great advances in surgery, that is cardiac surgery, which was performed in 1948. There was kidney transplantation, there was face transplant. Also, laparoscopic surgery was also happening. Now, even during the medieval times, this is about nursing. You feel that nursing, yes, as we mentioned earlier, it is nothing but you're providing care and compassion to the people who are ill. And during the olden times, it was the nuns or the sisters who actually practiced this kind of profession, and they were the best kind of healers during those times. And what happened is, even in France, the rich families used to send their children for training and or their daughters for training to become nuns, so that they provided this kind of healthcare service. And this is the modern nursing, which was mainly headed by Florence Nightingale in the 19th century, and this really spread during 1900s. And in the Crimean War, as I mentioned to you, and this happened during the times of Florence Nightingale, and she played a great role during this time, where she laid the foundation of professional nursing, and most of the principles were summarized in her own book, which she made, which is known as Notes on Nursing. Florence Nightingale is also called as the Lady with the Lamp, And this is what the picture that you normally see. So Florence Nightingale is this, and she also believed that when we try to treat the patient, or when we try to look at the patient's environment, when you're able to control most of the factors in a patient's environment, you are able to assist him in his recovery or provide him good health. Florence Nightingale also set up schools, and for that, Florence Nightingale raised funds. She set up the training school at St. Thomas Hospital, and most of the students who graduated from that school were called as the Nightingales. This is another important or very well-known nurse, Linda Richards, and these were the nurses, from St. Mary's Hospital, and was in Sydney, and this is what they all contributed, and this is what nurses during those times looked like. This is nothing but a picture which is showing about how nurses treated the wounded and the sick soldiers. This is a nurse, and again the Catholic nuns. This was during the World War II, where the army nurses gained importance, and a lot of opportunities were given for nurses to work at the time. These were a group of nurses in Mexico. This was in the Canadian Military Hospital in France, and these were the Australian nurses. So a lot of importance was gained by nursing all over the world. Nursing schools as was set up, and nurse training was offered in these schools, and again eventually it started to gain importance, and nursing degrees were also being offered to the students, and again this slowly started to become like a professional education, and the nurses started to gain professionalism. Traditional medicine in India. Now, in India, again, a lot of different methods of systems of medicine was practiced. And in India, the different systems that was practiced was Ayurveda, homeopathy, yoga and naturopathy, Unani, as well as Siddha. And again, when you know traditional medicine, it is mostly related to the herbs. And you know about the importance of neem and the importance of turmeric, ginger. So all these were the kind of traditional medicine, and people had the knowledge. So this is how they used to prepare their mixture, and they believe that yes, it is the turmeric has got antiseptic properties, and that is how they treated the illnesses as well as even the spices that we use. So these are all the spices, like be it your cloves, your pepper, black pepper, all this had very great medicinal properties. And in different parts of India, like even whether it be the east or the south, north or west, the different systems were practiced. Siddha system was practiced in the south, like in Tamil Nadu. Again, Unani was practiced around the south area. Homeopathy again was practiced most popular in Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, as well as West Bengal. Unani medicine is the origin is Greece, and it was introduced in India by the Arabs. And again, most of the nervous system disorders as well as the bronchial asthma was being treated by this system of medicine. Siddha system of medicine again gained some kind of importance, and this was one of the oldest systems of medicine which was practiced largely in the Tamil speaking part of India. Homeopathy, the most important person who introduced this homeopathy was known as Samuel Hahnemann. It was in 1755 to 1843. He is known as the founder of homeopathy. Again, this also had its very interesting works, because these were like small pills which was sugar coated. Again, had importance, and again it was very interesting how these kind of treatments helped cure illness. Ayurveda, I'm sure you would have all heard about the name, and Ayurveda mainly focused on all this kind of the elements in the environment, or which is nothing but your fire, water, earth, air, as well as space. And it was really it was the three doshas that you see in Ayurveda is called as Vata, Pitta, Kapha, which is related to your air, water, fire, and earth. So this is how Ayurveda also had their own principles of treating. In India, Shushruta is called as the father of surgery, and he had his own methods and techniques about how he treated the sick as well as the ill. And again, it's very interesting to know that even during those times, he had performed the brain surgery as well. So this is how during those times surgery was being conducted and illness was being taken care of. Plastic surgery was also being performed by Shushruta, and again, this is like a session where he used to teach his students about how the procedures and the illnesses were caused, and what are the methods of taking care of the particular illness. So he is called as the father of Indian medicine. Again, very interesting to know that even the cesarean section was also being performed during those times. Charaka is another important person called as the father of medicine. Again, a scholar of Ayurveda, and who was able to cure most of the diseases. So he practiced mostly Ayurveda. And again, he had explained about a lot of drugs during the time, and most of it revolved around the concept of digestion, metabolism, immunity, genetics, as well as drugs. So this was his contribution to medicine. Now, even now, this was all the kind of transformation that happened during the previous olden times until what it is today. Now, when you see the trends, which are nothing but the changing concepts in medical surgical nursing, it has evolved a lot. So it is not just about treating a person, but these days what we know is there is a lot of aspects, because you need to assess the patient properly, you need to make a proper diagnosis, be it medical diagnosis or nursing diagnosis. You need to be able to prioritize the patient's problems. Then you need to assess the patient again, and then prepare your interventions, and then provide care. No matter what you do, there is a rationale for it, because for a particular scientific principle, you're able to provide the particular care. And again, most of it was based on ethical issues and focusing on quality, and even the cost becomes a very important factor these days. But the way the medicine or the nursing is being practiced is really different. Again, the care was also focusing on adult patients, which is providing care to the sick as well as the ill. Even in nursing, when you look at it, it is not just about care and compassion, but there is a lot associated with it, because you need particular the nurses have also got a varied role to play, not just being a nurse or providing care. But as you all know about the roles of nurses that you learned in the first year, nursing role is also greatly advanced. And even in be it education or be it in a hospital setting, nursing has also taken a really great shape, and there's a lot of advances in nursing. And even these days, research is also becoming a very important aspect in nursing. Again, the clinical nurse has got a lot of roles to complete, and it's very important that the clinical nurse, she needs the appropriate knowledge, she needs to be experienced, she needs to be registered, she needs to have the particular license to practice, and also she needs to have the particular training in order to perform in a particular specialty. And this is how all the innovations happened in nursing. Again, leadership role was also taken a very important leadership has also taken a very important role in nursing. Again, there were a lot of challenges in different areas, and research, as I mentioned to you, was taking shape in nursing, and a lot of research is being conducted by nurses alone, and in order to trying to enhance the professional aspects. So the trends again is nothing but providing hands-on practice, and it was clearly observed that providing students with clinical experience or hands-on experience is really important, and more importance or emphasis was given to evidence-based practice, be it education or be it any kind of a clinical practice, and the evidence-based practice continued. And the trends again in education was mainly how the curriculum changes have been done, how the curriculum has been revised, lot of innovations in teaching and learning. And even now when you look at it, this is an innovative kind of teaching, because we have moved on from the real college settings and then coming back to online teaching sessions. So this is again an innovation that you see in the educational aspect. And the whole idea is now even technology has taken a real important space or place in our lives, again, be it education or even the clinical aspects, because you are still able to provide care whether the patient is sitting with you or whether the patient is sitting elsewhere. Again, as I mentioned, nursing education, nursing practice, the ethical views as well as the legal issues and the legal views, and how the healthcare delivery system is being providing this particular care is also gaining shape as well as importance. But saying this, there were a lot of issues as well, because you know that there is nurse shortage everywhere. The patient satisfaction had to be taken into consideration, how to manage care, and a lot of evidence based practice had to be performed, and again the legal and ethical issues. And again, as you see,